Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Tiff with Voices for Independence, Fitness and Activities. I'm here to share a delicious dinner recipe idea with you. So this evening I am going to be making a white chicken enchilada dish. It is a delicious dish. It's going to be a little bit on the healthier side. We're using some lighter ingredients and we're going to be creating our own white sauce for enchiladas. Traditionally, enchiladas are in a red sauce, but this is a little twist on tradition, and then we're going to make some great substitutes as well. So to get started, what you're going to want to do, we're going to get our enchilada sauce started. So you're going to want to take 2 tablespoons of whatever oil you're using. You can use butter, or you can use, I'm using some ghee, which is clarified butter. You can use a different type of oil if you want to as well. And so we're going to put it in our tabletop skillet, and then we're going to melt it down until it's fully melted. And then to this, we are going to add about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of flour. You can use your regular flour. You can use your flour substitutes. I'm using a little bit of arrowroot flour here, which is more like a cornstarch. And basically, what this is doing is it's going to thicken up our butter to make a nice base for our sauce. We're going to make like a roux. That's what it's called when we mix the butter and flour together. So you want to add your flour in that you choose to use. And then I like to use a whisk for this part. I feel it helps incorporate the dry ingredients better with the butter or oil, and it also helps break up any clumps you may have with your flour. So I'm just going to make sure this is all mixed in, and once your flour has dissolved fully in your butter mixture, it's going to start to thicken it up a little bit, and that's exactly what we want to happen with the butter and flour mixture. So once you've done that, and it'll take maybe a minute. I started my butter a little before I started here with you, so my butter was already melted. So once your butter's melted and that is mixed in, we are going to now add 2 cups of chicken broth to this. I am using free-range chicken broth. It's organic. It's just something I choose to use, but you can use any chicken broth that you like for your recipe. So I'm just going to add 2 cups of our chicken broth to this. And then, oh my gosh, I just splashed myself. And then we are going to slowly pour this into our dish. So I'm just making sure I have the correct measurements for you here. And yes, it's 2 cups of broth. And I'm going to add that right to the roux that we have started. You're going to want to slowly pour it in because your skillet's going to be hot. So you don't want to splash, like I did, any of that hot broth onto you. All right, once that's been poured in, keep your whisk going, and we're going to continue to whisk this occasionally and let this simmer for about 5 to 6 minutes. We just want to give that time for the flour to help thicken up our broth. So I have my flour all mixed in, and I'm just going to let that sit here while we start to prepare the chicken for the chicken enchiladas. So for this, you'll need about 2 cups of shredded cooked chicken. So I baked mine in the oven already. I find that baking it low and slow gives you a really nice, tender texture and a really juicy chicken breast once it has been baked. So I put mine in at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes, depending on the thickness of the chicken breast. I use 3 small breasts, and it made just a touch over 2 cups. I just salt and peppered it. I use a little onion powder, a little garlic, and a little paprika on mine, and I baked it. Once it's cooled, I just fork shredded it right on the pan and then measured it and put it in the bowl. So I have 2 cups of shredded chicken, and to this we're going to add some seasonings to give it a little bit of that spice for the enchilada portion. So we are going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, a 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder. Let me get out my measuring spoon here. Don't want to. Now, if you don't like spice, you can definitely cut these numbers down a little bit. So you can either half it or just add however much heat you want to add to yours. So I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of chili powder. We're just going to sprinkle that over the chicken, the shredded chicken. And then I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of the cumin. And I'm gonna go back and forth here, stirring my broth for the base here as it's starting to thicken up a little bit. And if you don't feel it's thickening up enough, because I like to start slow on the flour because I don't want to overdo it. So I'm going to add just a little bit more to my mixture, set up to 2 tablespoons. I added about 1.5. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more in there. Let's dump some of that off. All right. And then I am going to whisk that in again as the broth starts to thicken up in our roux for this delicious sauce we're making. All right, so we'll come back to that. We're gonna go back to our chicken. So we have our cumin, our chili powder, and now we're going to add a 1/2 cup of salsa to this as well. This is all going into our chicken that we are gonna put inside some tortillas. So I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of salsa, whatever your favorite salsa is. I like this fresh salsa we get at our local grocery store. It's almost like a pico de gallo type feel with a lot of fresh vegetables, so I love to use that. So I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of our favorite salsa, and then I'm just going to use a pair of tongs to toss these ingredients together. Get all those seasonings and salsa mixed in to our chicken there. So once you've done that, what we're going to do is you're going to want to lightly grease, just very lightly, because this is going in a 13 by 9 inch pan. Lightly grease the pan, and we're going to start rolling our chicken in some tortillas. This makes about 6, the recipe says. I feel we might get a little more out of that. So we'll see here in a moment. I'm going to jump back to our enchilada sauce real quick and see how that's coming along, because I would like to construct these all at once at the end to show you. So I'm going to go back to our sauce, and I know you can't see, but it's thickening up nicely with that flour that we added. So once you have done that and you notice that your sauce is now starting to thicken, we're going to add a little bit of seasoning to our sauce as well. So we're going back to that cumin. We're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin right to our sauce, and we're just going to sprinkle that in. I have my setting at a medium temperature, medium low. It's around a 4, and because I do not want this to burn or scorch. We're also going to add 1 cup of a cheese to it. You can use a mozzarella, or you can use a Mexican cheese, which I am going to be using today just because it's literally my favorite. This is queso fresco. My favorite cheese. I really don't eat a lot of cheese, but when I do, this is the one I choose, this or fresh mozzarella. So we're going to add 1 cup. Oops. It's a little bit crumbly and can be messy, so be careful. We're going to add the 1 cup of the cheese right to our sauce, and we're going to start lightly whisking the cheese in until it melts. And then what we're going to do also, we have some more ingredients. We are going to add some green chilies. Now, you can use the 4-ounce can of green chilies that you get at your grocery store. I, at first, thought I was all out because I put this in such a great place because I wanted to save it for this recipe, and when I went to look for it, I thought I was all out because I forgot where I put it. So I also chopped up some fresh yellow pepper here. So green chilies are a very light pepper, meaning they don't have a lot of heat. So you can easily substitute your regular peppers for that. Or if you really like heat, you can substitute jalapenos. So since I don't want to waste this, I'm going to add not only my yellow peppers, but also my green chilies as well. Extra veggies, never hurt anybody. So you can add your whole cup or your whole can in, 4 ounces. You do not have to rinse or get the water out of that because it is a little bit wet. You don't have to strain that. You can just put the whole can of chilies right into your sauce, and we're going to continue to stir as we're incorporating all the ingredients in our saucepan. And then lastly, we are going to add 1 cup, which is 8 ounces of, I'm going to turn this up just a little bit as my ingredients are getting more plentiful here. I got to get a little more heat on this. I'm going to add 1 cup of Greek yogurt. Now, in the recipe, you can use sour cream. I am choosing a little bit lighter option, so I am going with the Greek yogurt, which is an excellent substitute for your sour creams. So I'm just gonna get a spoon and we're gonna add 1 cup of this right to our saucepan as well. And I apologize, this does make 8 tortillas that we can lay out in our pan. So I'm gonna add 8 ounces, which is 1 cup of our Greek yogurt. Again, a wonderful substitute. I've been using it as a sour cream substitute on top of a lot of my Mexican dishes, and you can't even tell the difference. People will use it on their mashed potatoes, if they're doing a baked potato, instead of sour cream, they'll use Greek yogurt. It has very similar qualities, texture, and taste, so especially when it's blended in, you're not going to notice that big a difference. So our sauce is thickening up nice. You'll be able to see it towards the end when I construct our enchilada dish. But right now I'm just going to whisk it in, making sure to incorporate all these delicious sauce ingredients so it's one coherent color and texture. Working my way around the edges to get all those little pieces of peppers mixed in as well. So I'm going to let this sit here and simmer on a medium heat while I show you how we're going to put our tortillas together. So we're going to clean up a little bit, make a space, because we're going to be rolling our tortillas right here for our dish. So what we're going to want to do is get a plate out, or you can use your countertop. Mine's a little messy now, so I don't want to do it right on the countertop. You can do it on your cutting board, but we're going to take approximately 8 tortillas, and we are going to add chicken to each one of them. Some of our delicious seasoned shredded chicken that we made just a moment ago. And we are going to put it right in the center of the tortilla, which I'll do for you next. And then we're just going to simply roll it up. You don't have to tuck the ends or anything like a burrito. This is going to go right into a 13 by 9 inch baking dish. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you put it seam side down, and as we tuck them in a row in the pan, they'll pretty much stay closed for you. So there we have it. I put maybe like 2 or 3 ounces right in the center. If you want to make really full ones, you can do that too. Make less tortillas and more, fill them a little bit more. And then all you're going to do is start at one edge and roll it over. Now my seam side's already down. It's staying nicely, so I'll show you. We're just going to put that right in a pan. And this recipe says it makes about 8. So we can fill them right in our pan here. I'll make one more for you as we're going along. So we're just going to keep doing that. If you want to double this recipe, because you have, you want to freeze these freeze really well. Bake them in the oven and then divvy them up in airtight containers. Once they cool, you can put them in your freezer and save them for another dish for another day. And simply just pull them out and reheat them, and they'll be just as good as the first day you had them. Again, I'm just going to tuck my one edge in and roll it over so my seam is facing down, and then I'm just going to put it right back in my pan as well. And that's all there is to it. Go ahead, fill up your tortillas and your pan, and then what you will do last, I'll just show you this. Let me whisk it one more time. All you have to do next is preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and then we just pour our enchilada sauce that we created right over all of your rolled up little chicken enchiladas. This sauce looks delicious. You can still see my cheese. I like it like that. It'll melt more in the oven. The Mexican queso doesn't melt as well unless it's on a higher heat, so that will be delicious once we get it on top and in the oven. You will bake this at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. Really, it just needs to heat through again. Everything's cooked already, so if you pull it out a little early, you're good to go. Just to make it a little bubbly around the sides, you can sprinkle some more cheese on, garnish with whatever you want. You can throw some cherry tomatoes on there, cilantro, my favorite. Top off a little more Greek yogurt and enjoy a delicious dinner. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. I'll share it in the comments below. And you guys have a great evening, and I'll be back tomorrow to share some more delicious food ideas with you. Thanks.